Did you know that a man responsible for some of the most horrific war crimes in history died a free man in his comfy bed? And not just free, but rich. This isn't a Hollywood movie plot, it's the real-life story of Shiro Ishii, the mastermind behind Japan's infamous Unit 731. Ishii, a military doctor, led a secret program during World War II that would make your skin crawl. He experimented on thousands of innocent people, mostly Chinese prisoners of war, in ways that defy imagination and basic human decency. But here's the kicker. Instead of facing a war crimes tribunal like many of his contemporaries, Ishii struck a deal with the US government. In exchange for his gruesome research data, he received immunity from prosecution and a hefty paycheck. That's right, the US government essentially paid millions for data derived from torture and murder. Now let's dive into the chilling world of Unit 731 and uncover the dark secrets that Ishii thought he could bury forever. Imagine a sprawling complex hidden in the Manchurian Plains, a place called Pingfang. Behind its walls, Unit 731 operated with chilling efficiency. This wasn't your average medical facility, it was a death factory disguised as a research center. Unit 731's supposed goal? To develop biological weapons and study the effects of deadly diseases. But instead of using lab rats, they used human beings. Men, women, even pregnant women and children were imprisoned and subjected to unimaginable horrors. Ishii, a man driven by twisted ambition and a god complex, ruled this house of horrors. He believed that his research was justified in the name of national security and saw the prisoners as expendable test subjects. But how could anyone, let alone a doctor, justify such barbarity? The atrocities committed at Unit 731 are difficult to even write about. Prisoners were infected with deadly diseases like plague, anthrax, and cholera to study their effects. Vivisections were performed without anesthesia, organs were removed, and limbs were amputated to analyze blood loss. Can you imagine the screams, the pleas for mercy that echoed through those halls? It's enough to make you sick to your stomach. But it gets worse. Ishii's team also conducted frostbite experiments, deliberately exposing prisoners to freezing temperatures to study the effects of hypothermia. They tested weapons on live subjects, detonating bombs and firing bullets into human flesh to observe the damage. These weren't isolated incidents, they were systematic acts of torture and murder carried out on an industrial scale. The cruelty knew no bounds. As World War II came to a close, the walls of secrecy surrounding Unit 731 began to crumble. Facing defeat, Ishii ordered the facility destroyed and all evidence incinerated. He believed he could erase his crimes and escape accountability. And in a shocking turn of events, he was right. The victorious Allies, particularly the United States, were engaged in a new conflict, the Cold War. They saw the value of Ishii's research no matter how horrifically it was obtained. The US government, eager to gain an advantage over the Soviet Union in the burgeoning field of biological warfare, made a deal with the devil. Imagine this. The very nation that had fought against the horrors of Nazi Germany was now negotiating with a man who had committed atrocities on par with the worst of the Third Reich. But that's exactly what happened. The United States granted Ishii and his collaborators immunity from prosecution in exchange for their research data, reports, and even bacterial samples. This information, they believed, was crucial for developing their own biological weapons program and defending against potential Soviet aggression. The price tag for this deal? Millions of dollars paid directly to Ishii and his team. They were handsomely rewarded for their crimes against humanity, while their victims received no justice, no recognition, and no peace. Section 6. The Price of Progress, Ethics and the Shadow of War. The story of Shiro Ishii and Unit 731 raises disturbing questions about the price of progress and the murky ethics of wartime decision-making. Can we justify sacrificing our moral compass in the name of national security? Is it ever acceptable to benefit from knowledge gained through such horrific means? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are questions we must grapple with as we confront the dark chapters of our history. The deal struck between Ishii and the US government continues to cast a long shadow, a reminder that even in the pursuit of a greater good, we must never lose sight of our humanity. Section 7. Remembering the Victims, Voices from the Abyss. While Ishii lived out his days in relative comfort, The victims of Unit 731 were left to suffer in silence. Many died agonizing deaths from the experiments inflicted upon them, while others carried the physical and psychological scars for the rest of their lives. Their stories, for too long suppressed and ignored, deserve to be heard. We must remember the men, women, and children who were robbed of their dignity, their freedom, and their lives. Their suffering must not be in vain. Section 8. A Legacy of Shame, Confronting the Past. The legacy of Unit 731 continues to haunt Japan and the world. For decades, the Japanese government denied the existence of the program, covering up the atrocities and silencing those who tried to speak out. It wasn't until the 1980s that evidence of Unit 731's crimes began to emerge, forcing Japan to acknowledge its dark past. Even today, the full extent of the program's activities and the number of victims remain unknown. Confronting this shameful legacy is a painful but necessary step towards reconciliation and preventing such horrors from ever happening again. Section 9. Never Again. Lessons from the Abyss. The story of Shiro Ishii and Unit 731 serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of human morality and the dangers of unchecked ambition. It's a stark lesson about the importance of accountability, transparency, and a commitment to human rights, even in the midst of conflict. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. We must hold perpetrators accountable, no matter how powerful they may be, and we must never forget the victims, honoring their memory by fighting for a more just and compassionate world.